Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government to spend 6.72 trillion naira on subsidy in 2023. Court grants request for Tinubu's trial. Plus, President Biden tests positive for COVID-19. Details of these stories and more in a moment. We'll begin the news this evening with a report that President Muhammadu Buhari has presided over a National Security Council meeting at the Council Chamber within the Aso Villa in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. The meeting comes 2 weeks after a similar meeting held against the backdrop of the attack on Kuje Correctional Facility. Those in attendance at the meeting today included Secretary to the Government of the Federation Bas Mustafa, the Chief of Staff to the President Ibrahim Gambari, and National Security Advisor Major General Babagana Munguno. Others were Chief of Defense Staff General Lucky Rabo, Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, Chief of Naval Staff Vice Admiral Awal Gambo, and the Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Isiaka Amal. Also in attendance were the Inspector General of Police Al-Khali Baba Usman, the Director General of the Department of State Service Yusuf BC, and the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Ahmed Rufai Abu, among other top security chiefs. Today's Security Council meeting comes a few hours after President Buhari condemned the murder of a Catholic priest, Reverend Father John Chaitnam of the Kafanchan Catholic Diocese. In a related development, the National Security Council is considering a nationwide ban on motorcycles and mining activities in the country as part of its strategy to curb terrorist activities, checkmate loopholes, and cut off their sources of funding. This was the outcome of the meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House, Abuja. Addressing State House correspondents after the meeting, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami said investigations were ongoing to establish the correlation between mining and motorcycles, which they suspect provide funding for the supply of arms to the terrorists. Malami, who noted that terrorists had moved from the conventional ways of funding their activities to mining and ransom-taking, said the government was aware of the economic consequences of the proposed resolutions, particularly the motorcycle ban. He said it had, however, become imperative in order to guarantee the nation's security. According to reports, terrorist groups, particularly in Nigeria, are increasingly interested in controlling areas of production of gold. Meanwhile, federal government has so far released a sum of 4.7 trillion naira to finance expenditure in the 2022 budget. This is according to the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed. The minister confirmed this today at a consultative forum on the 2023-2025 medium-term fiscal framework in Abuja. It could be recalled that the 17 trillion naira 2022 budget was signed into law on December 31 last year by President Muhammadu Buhari. The breakdown of the budget includes 869 billion naira for statutory allocation, 3.8 trillion naira for debt servicing, 6.9 trillion naira for 5.4 trillion naira for recurrent and capital expenditure, respectively. Speaking at an event, the minister further explained that out of the 4.7 trillion naira spending, the government had released a total of 1.9 trillion naira for debt servicing, while personnel costs and pensions gulped the sum of 1.2 trillion naira. She said the balance of 773.63 billion naira was spent by the federal government on capital projects. Elsewhere, federal government has dragged the 3,657 civil servants before the Independent and Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC) over failure to get verified on the Integrated Personnel Payroll Information System (IPIS). Head of the Civil Service Folashade Yemiasan stated this when she appeared on the weekly ministerial media briefing organized by the Presidential Communications Team at the Presidential Villa Abuja. Yemiasan, who was accompanied to the briefing by other senior officials of the Federal Civil Service, also said a total of 61,446 civil servants in the core ministries, departments and agencies had already been verified. She added that another 1,618 applicants were found to have used illegal or fake letters, while 874 officers had been suspended from IPIS platform. Yemiasan noted that about 180 million naira was being saved on a monthly basis and about 2 billion naira annually from the implementation of IPIS. Away from that, the federal government has said it will make provision for subsidy in 2023 to the tune of 6.72 trillion naira. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed made this known in Abuja during the 2023-2025 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategic Paper public consultation. Ahmed said the government had projected fiscal outcomes in the medium term under two scenarios based on the underlying budget parameters and assumptions. To legislative matters now, where the House of Representatives has mandated some committees to investigate the attack on Kuje prison. Following a motion by Shaban Sharada, the lawmakers mandated its committees on national security and intelligence, interior, police, army and others to investigate the attack. It would be recalled that armed terrorists had stormed the correctional facility, breached the walls and freed several inmates, including terrorists. The medium security facility is home to several VIPs, terrorists and other inmates, and the government had claimed that over 900 inmates were released with less than half recaptured. Leading the motion, Sharada said the attack happened despite the huge resources expended on security by the government, adding that people in Abuja were living in fear of the development. So on legislative matters, the House of Representatives has urged the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) to address delays arising from instant interbank electronic funds transfer services to find a lasting solution to the problem. This followed the adoption of a motion on a call on the Central Bank of Nigeria to ensure swift e-fund transfer services in Nigeria by Mohammed Bello. The House noted that via a circular dated September 13, 2018, the CBN had issued a regulation on instant interbank electronic funds transfer services targeted at various payment platforms that seek to provide instant electronic funds transfer services in Nigeria. He therefore urged the CBN to make regulations with respect to the procedure channeling complaints by aggrieved customers and mandated the Committee on Banking and Currency to ensure compliance. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has resolved to investigate the alleged lopsided recruitments by the Transmission Company of Nigeria, particularly the exclusion of Bayelsa State. Consequently, the House mandated its committees on federal character and public service matters to invite the head of service of the Federation and the managing director of TCN to explain the rationale for the alleged marginalization of Bayelsa and other states in an ongoing recruitment exercise. The resolution was based on the motion moved by a member of the House, Prayel Seke, noting that the TCN was in the process of concluded a recruitment exercise in which over 400 applicants have been favorably considered. He, however, alleged that only a few of such successful applicants are from Bayelsa State, despite the very many eligible applicants from the said state. The lawmaker said, considering youth restiveness on the account of mass unemployment, the act of bias and uneven distribution of opportunities could negatively impact on unethical conducts perpetrated by youths of the state. In the meantime, House of Representatives has directed the Bureau of Public Enterprise and the Niger Delta Power Holding Company to halt the planned sales of 5 power plants belonging to the 3 tiers of government without following due process. The House gave the directive after adopting a motion of urgent public importance sponsored by Chairman of the House Committee on Power, Magaji Dao. It asked the Director General of the Bureau, Alex Oko, to desist from any act aimed at facilitating the sales of the 5 power plants until such sale is authorized by the shareholders, as stipulated by the Companies and Allied Matters Act. To Judiciary Matters now, where Federal High Court in Abuja has granted permission to a civil rights organization under the aegis of Incorporated Trustees of Center for Reform and Public Advocacy to apply for order of mandamus that will compel the Inspector General of Police to prosecute the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, over alleged perjury. Justice Nyang Ekwo granted the leave while delivering ruling in an ex parte application argued by the lawyer to the group, Ugo Nwofo. The ex parte application was filed by the organization following the alleged refusal of the Inspector General of Police, Usman Al-Khalibaba, to effect the arrest and prosecution of Tinubu for supplying false information on oath in respect of his educational qualifications. Nwofo, while moving the application, informed Justice Ekwo that it is predicated on the rule of the Federal High Court to first obtain permission of the court before proceeding with a suit seeking order to compel the police chief to carry out his constitutional duties. Justice Ekwo, in a brief ruling, held that the ex parte application was meritorious and subsequently granted it. The judge fixed November 1 for the hearing of the substantive suit. Still from the judiciary, the Federal High Court sitting in Akure, the Ondo State capital, has reserved judgment for August 30, 2022 over the case instituted by the senator representing Ondo South Senatorial District, Nicholas Tofowomo, against a former deputy governor of the state, Abola Ajayi, over the senatorial primary of the party. Ajayi reportedly defeated Tofowomo in the senatorial primary held in Okitipupa town, Okitipupa local government area of the state on May 20, 2022. After the primary, Tofowomo approached the court seeking disqualification of Ajayi on the grounds that Ajayi allegedly involved in perjury and education scandal. The senator stated that Ajayi did not meet the constitutional requirements for contesting the 2023 general election as contained in the Electoral Act 2022, as well as other relevant laws. However, the defense counsel argued that the allegation of perjury against his client was unfounded. In education, Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board (JAMB) and heads of tertiary institutions in the country